everybody. Welcome to Nerdy 430, the podcast where my buddy Tim and I talk about some nerdy things that we have seen recently. My name is Kevin Bauer, and today we are talking about Zach Snyder's Army of the Dead. Tim, what did you think about this one?
Boy, I don't know. I enjoyed it, but it is not a good movie. I could say that. I think we can say it's not a good movie, but it was fun. It was cool. Maybe this is exactly the kind of stuff that I think Netflix should be doing, is just making these big, fun movies. You got Batista in this. Batista's fun. Just a random ensemble of people that I vaguely recognize from other things, but probably don't actually. But it feels like I should kind of recognize them. Tig Notaro's there. They're killing a bunch of zombies. It's like fun gun-toting action that Netflix does well. It's a good time, but it's not a great time. What did you think,
No,
Kevin?
I'm dead on with you. I think this is a great point that this is what Netflix should be doing. I mean, it was a popcorn flick, man. Like, this is the kind of thing we totally would have gone to see this in theaters in like normal times. But if I'd paid $24 to see it in a theater out here, I would have been disappointed. Turning it on Netflix and being like, it's like 2.5 hours long. So we put it on Friday night and we were like, we'll see how far we get into this. We watched the whole thing. It was entertaining, but I'm not going to watch it again.
You're right. This has somehow become a recurring theme on the podcast of like, because it's free, it's awesome. Like, I guess it's not free because it's on Netflix. Everybody pays for Netflix.
Yeah.
If I'd gone to a movie theater and paid $20, which is what you pay in New York, like at least $15 for a movie, I would have been a little more annoyed about it. But still, it was fun. I enjoyed it. You're right. It's a popcorn movie. It's a shoot 'em up. The characters are fun. They do some things really well. Other things just kind of fall flat. But it's one of those movies where like the real weakness is just the characters, you know?
Yeah.
which sounds like it would tank a movie, right? Oh, the characters just don't make any sense. But because they're doing a fun thing and they're in a fun world and the set pieces are funny and it's not taking itself too seriously, it's still just a good enjoyable time, man. What do you think?
Let me tell you something about character. I cut you off hard. I apologize for that. But I do have a point that I want to make about character.
I was going to ask you a question about character.
Oh, God.
I was not. I'm just kidding. No, you go. Say what you're going to say.
Look, if you're not going to have good writing for your characters, don't try. Don't try. I feel like if you're making these movies and you recognize that this isn't working, you have two options. You can rewrite everything so that your character works, or you can abandon it and admit to yourself that it's not going to be that kind of movie, and that's completely okay. I watch a lot of 80s movies. I'm trying to get caught up on a lot of these 80s classics that I haven't seen. One of the hallmarks of these things is that for a lot of these characters, like these movies are a tight 90 minutes, like a 80s action movie. What little bit of a character we're getting is maybe like one or two sentences where they explain in like a hilariously hardcore way what their deal is. And then that's it. We get this one little nugget where they say what their thing is. We never really hear anything else. I feel like a lot of these action movies nowadays are like, you know, we need to get inside Dave Bautista's head a little bit more. We need to find out like what's really making this guy tick. So he'll have a moment up top where he says his deal in like a very 80s way. And then when we spend more time with him, there's not really anything worthwhile under the surface. There's not really anything down there. It's like an onion where it's just peel.
It's just like the shitty skin on the outside of an onion that you're just going to throw away, but you keep getting more and more of it just coming off in the hand. You're right. And even what would you say Dave Bautista's thing is? Like if you had to boil him down, 80s stereotype, one or two lines, what's Dave Bautista's thing?
Okay, so you know how in The Fugitive with Harrison Ford, his huge catchphrase is, "I didn't kill my wife." Dave Bautista's thing in this movie is, "I had to kill my wife."
I had to kill my wife, but I'm a badass. Why is he a badass? I don't know why he's a badass. Does he have military training? I don't know, but he's definitely got awards for saving people when shit went down in Las Vegas.
Yeah, I think he got a Medal of Honor for his services killing zombies.
I believe because he saved the U.S. Surgeon General or whatever the fuck it was. They gave him the Medal of Freedom, whatever, the highest civilian honor it is. So I don't think he's a military guy, or maybe he does have military experience, but that's not a part of the story. He killed his wife in front of his daughter to save her life. It was the hardest thing he's ever done. Now he's flipping burgers and needs $1 million to make up to his daughter, who, by the way, I'll jump the gun here. When did you know that the biggest villain in the movie was going to be the daughter? This girl sucks ass. I hate this character. Dude, the daughter of the action star always sucks. It's a cliche that like keeps on happening. Sons get themselves killed, daughters get good people killed. If you see the hero's son, he always dies, and that's the motivation for the guy. But he can't kill a daughter. She just kills everybody else and fucks everything up for these guys. She ultimately leads to the demise of the people that she's trying to rescue, as well as the other people in Dave Bautista's crew, including her dad. And then she has the balls to be like, I don't know if I can love you again. Like, fuck off. Have some sort of awareness that your dad is probably going through the same kind of trauma you are. He wasn't there for me. He wasn't there. What a selfish brat. I hate it. And like, why at the end of the movie, they're like, oh my God, it's so hard for her. I'm like, she should have died. She should have died. The audience would have leapt out of their seats cheering if this evil, vile human being had gotten their comeuppance. I don't understand why we're supposed to empathize for this girl who has been nothing but a burden on everyone in this group and ultimately killed her dad and everyone else. I mean, she's the worst. She's a monster. She is the monster terrible in this movie.
It's absurd to me that the one person from the group that survives is the person that went into zombie infested territory in a tank top with no arm protection. Arm protection is a beef overall in this movie. Everybody who dies, here's a fun fact. Everybody who dies in this movie gets bit on the arm. That's not true, but it feels true.
It feels like it. You're right.
Everyone's getting bit on the fucking arm. Everybody went, I get that it's hot. You're going into zombie territory. You pull a World War Z, you wrap newspapers around your arms or something. You don't, if you're gonna, man, I don't fucking know what comparison to make to this. If you're gonna go,
it's like shark diving without a cage.
I've got one. Yeah, that's great. If you're gonna go shake a beehive, you're gonna wear one of those like bee suits, like a beekeeper suit, you know? You dress for the job. Nobody in this movie was dressed for the job.
You're right. Nobody was dressed for the job. They're all just like ready to get bit. They just don't care. It's so tough. God, I hate the daughter in this so much. She's the worst. She's just a terrible person. Oh man, I just was waiting for her to get blown away. That would have been so satisfying.
You're not wrong about the trope of the daughter. It's terrible. I hate it. You're not wrong about it. You know who did having a daughter around well is The Last of Us, where Ellie kind of as the series is going on, she's picking it up. She's learning how to exist in that environment. And we're seeing how that's changing her character. Last of Us does it fucking great. It's maybe the only example I can think of where, the action daughter isn't this horrible, either like damsel in distress that's being saved like in Taken, or huge liability to everyone around them like an Army of the Dead.
It's just an easy thing to write, I guess, is father, daughter, how do we generate conflict with them? Well, the daughter's a bitch. Like that's just kind of what they always go to. I mean, isn't that true in this movie? She's just the worst. And it's exactly what we've talked about off air a lot, which is when you're creating a villain, like a good, convincing villain, the key is for them to be right. Thanos was right. Overpopulation is a problem. In some ways, the world would be better if we had less people. For sure. That's something that logically makes sense. Unfortunately, the way he wants to do it is by killing half of everything. which is unacceptable and non-heroic, and that's a villainous action. So this girl, her intentions are good to save her friend. She does that by spiting and blackmailing her father, by endangering the lives of everyone else in the group, by sneaking off on her own, which again, her father and other members of the crew are going to have to go rescue her. Ultimately, she gets the people she was trying to rescue killed. She's selfish, and it's all because she doesn't want to take care of these kids. She's like, their mom left. I don't want to get stuck with these kids. I have to get the mom back. And she should have been caught. There's a scene where she's just like hiding in a car in plain sight. These zombies, we can tell. There's nothing that makes sense about like how these zombie powers work. They sense heat, but they don't sense her just like standing there. It's crazy. There were so many. Oh my God, dude, there were so many seeds that were planted that they never fucking watered or mentioned again. The heat thing. They're setting us up for a nice Predator style, covering your body with mud, hiding your heat signature, walking through zombies. Why even mention they're attracted to heat unless you're going to do something with the heat? It makes no sense. The biggest one for me, man, this is going to be all beefs episode, man. is they talk about all the decomposed, like rotting bodies that were left out in the sun. And the coyote gal says, you should see when it rains and they all come back to life. And then it doesn't rain? Are you fucking kidding me? What are you doing? What is this? Why even say it then? Fuck off.
I forgot about that. When she said that, I
was so excited.
Because like, what an incredible setup. I complain about that stuff to Lauren all the time because it's like, I always call it's a first draft. It's left over from an earlier draft where you can tell sometimes in a movie where like the writer wrote this in with the intention of maybe having it pay off, and whether it just came to the rest of the script changing or whether it was cut later on or whatever happened, it never got to pay off. I think you have an obligation to go back in there and tighten your fucking script up and get rid of those hanging threads.
Especially if it's 2.5 hours. You're right. If this is a 90-minute movie, it's maybe the coolest movie I've ever seen. Right? Like, how much better is this movie in 90 minutes?
I wonder if we could do like an anti-Snyder cut of this movie and cut it down to 90 minutes and make it fucking awesome.
Dude, this guy needs to get knocked down a peg or two. We need to start just like the fuck Zach Snyder movement and just say, this guy sucks. I'm tired of like, he needs to earn our favor back. And I'm not saying he actually does. He does good stuff, but we need to keep him on his toes. He's too lenient with these edits. He's just like, yeah, you know what? They just want more. Here's a 5-hour movie. Enjoy it, guys. Like, no, don't stop throwing us this crap. Fucking take some time to practice your craft. Get in the editing room and show us a cohesive story in a digestible size, you asshole. Fucking do it.
Man.
Just try to give us something that is a reasonable length for one Zack Snyder.
If I'm understanding the way that Hollywood works well, his early stuff made money. And then he started getting trusted with big franchises that are pretty much on rails. If you make a movie about a superhero, the entire fan base for that superhero is going to come see the movie. It doesn't matter. You could give it to somebody who's never directed a movie before. It's going to make money. Like, these things are on rails, but then that's conflated with it being a good movie. Like, movies are made again in Hollywood. Sequels are greenlit based on how much money something made, not how good it is. So, you know, as long as he keeps getting trusted, he's getting trusted with these major franchises because he's been trusted with the franchises before. So his movies keep making this on rails money and nobody's holding him to a quality standard anymore. And yeah, it's self-indulgent. It's bad. I think this script. So I was about to say a thing. Tim brought up right before we started recording that Zack Snyder's first big movie he directed was Dawn of the Dead, the Dawn of the Dead remake, which was written by James Gunn, which is funny because I really thought that this script needed some James Gunn. And I say that as someone who is kind of sick of James Gunn. I think the whole shtick was amazing when it first came out. And like, obviously Guardians of the Galaxy, very fun movie. Guardians of the Galaxy 2 kind of pushed it to this point where it was like, this is a little bit, we're kind of wearing these characters thin. Like, we've played them for comedy to the point where everyone's a caricature at this point. And now it looks like the Suicide Squad that he's doing is going to be a continuation of that, where it's like, oh, isn't it quirky that all these quirky people have this quirky job of being superheroes and they have to go quirk it up together.
But it's fun. That's a fun formula. It's a modern take on the 80s tropes that you were mentioning before, which is these guys get one line, they get a shtick, we assign them their deal, and then they apply that deal. It's improv. It's just basic writing. That's the guy's deal. They're going to figure out a way to do their deal wherever we are. And the setting for all of this is just violence. And that's fun. That's entertaining. It's exciting. I like those kinds of movies. For some reason, Zach Snyder only has fun in the opening credits of his movies. And after that, it's like, okay, now it's time to get serious. The opening credits for this got me so excited. There's like topless dancers just like murdering a guy. There's a dude who's parachuting out of a plane just into a crowd of zombies. And while he's falling, he's like, why did I do this? And he just starts shooting and is clearly going to get killed and just is slowly falling to his death. It's very funny. And even the opening of this is a guy getting a roadhead and crashing into the car carrying the alpha zombie. And that starts the whole thing. Like, this is like fun and comedic, and then that all goes out the way. I mean, there's nothing else fun in the rest of this movie, right?
Yeah, they hit you over the head with the German guy, and it just falls flat every single time for me. They give all of the fun, like, character moment opportunities. He gets 80% of them. Tig Notaro gets 20% of them. Tig's great. Tig's character, very fun. But this German dude, we gotta tone down this guy.
Okay, here's maybe a new segment I'm pitching to you right now. It's called Money Well Spent. This budget was $70 million for this movie, which includes Chris D'Elia being edited out, which cost them millions of dollars. Chris D'Elia was initially playing Tig Notaro's role. He was edited out. Tig was cropped in or reshot in. Dave Bautista still has never met Tig Notaro.
That's amazing.
I read that online. $70 million. What do you think? What do you think of that budget? What do you think about spending millions of dollars to get rid of Chris D'Elia?
I'm actually surprised the budget for this wasn't higher than that. I definitely think money well spent replacing Chris D'Elia with Tig Notaro. It's funny. I feel like I could hear the way that Chris D'Elia would deliver the same lines when Tig was doing it. But I think Tig made the character a lot more unique. I think that's a really interesting thing. It's like it's the same thing like improv principle, go with your third thought. It's like very different, but it's so cool. Also, there's a scene where a guy, the like predatory guy from the refugee camp, is like shot and tied up and offered as a sacrifice to the zombies, and they're tearing into him. And the coyote is talking about how he was a sexual predator and lording his power over the girls in the camp. And the rest of the team is standing there watching this guy get torn apart and get justice for those terrible actions. And I was like, yeah, it's good that they didn't have Chris D'Elia watching on as this was happening to someone, because that's a little bit of a, I feel like that scene is the one where they were like, yeah, we got to recast that guy.
It was kind of funny to me too that everyone's like, oh my God, what are you doing? And she's like, it's okay, he's a sexual predator. And everyone's immediately like, oh, okay, that's fine.
Yeah. Like, Tig even gives like a shrug, like, well,
nah, who cares? Like, let him die. That's fine. You're right. The idea of Chris D'Elia standing there lording over this guy is a cruel irony, I think.
Unless they'd edited onto his face that scene where he realized that you can take a screenshot of a Snapchat. So he's watching it and he's just looking at this guy devoured.
She's like, shit. they leave him in, but they just edit a scene where the coyote goes like, I hate sexual predators. And then everyone turns and stares at Chris D'Elia.
There's your money well spent. Edit that on. Honestly, I thought too, in terms of money well spent, whatever they paid for Dave Bautista, he was great. I don't know that I've seen him in anything other than playing Drax. This made me so sad that they didn't give Drax more to do in the Guardians movies. So holy shit, Dave Bautista is a wonderful action star.
I debate a lot internally whether or not he's a good actor. He's without a doubt the best former wrestler turned actor ever. He has really good moments in this where he is just believable and he is out acting the other people that he is with in this movie. Maybe that's done intentionally. Maybe they're casting green people intentionally to make him look better or whatever. But I'm always pleasantly surprised with how good Batista is. And maybe it's, again, because I'm just thinking of him as a pro wrestler who was like, I don't even think he was really known for his mic work, but somehow a quiet, like subdued Batista just talking to somebody just feels genuine in a way that a lot of other action stars just don't feel. He's great. He's definitely a thief for me, him just coming in and doing that. I want to get your take on two aspects of this movie before we get into the categories. First off, it's a heist movie. What do you think about the elements of the heist in this? Is this a good idea? I kind of love the premise. It's a kind of a maybe original take on this zombie thing. Dawn of the Dead, they're just trying to survive. They're locked in a mall. The whole thing is we're just trying to get by. And in this one, they are actively entering zombie territory, taking on a lot of risk to get a bunch of money to change their lives. This is a heist movie that just happens to take place in a zombie world. What'd you think about that?
I love the premise so much. It's incredible. It adds this entire layer onto the genre where, like you said, they're not just trying to survive. They have brought this risk on themselves. So it's their fault, which is, a horror movie staple, is that you're punishing people for these like quote unquote sins that they've committed. So they've all committed the sin of hubris in terms of agreeing to go in there. What I don't like about this is one of my huge beefs for the movie. And I wanted to ask you this, Tim. Is there any world in which you would do this thing for this paltry amount of money that they're trying to steal? There's no way on earth I would go into this place for $50 million. That is so fucking low.
What?
No
would.
way.
15. These guys, Dave Bautista's walking away with $15 million. He's giving it all away to his evil daughter. So that's a bummer. But I would do this for $15 million. Why not? Your life sucks. It's shitty. This isn't the modern day that we understand. These are all just a bunch of broke people who are neglected. This guy's flipping burgers. His daughter wants nothing to do with him. I understand why $15 million is a life-changing amount of money. I do think it's a funny bit where they keep offering each guy they recruit to the crew less money. They got like $2 million, $500,000. Would you do this for $200,000? That one last guy who dies gets like 20 grand. And he's like, yeah, I'll do this for 20 grand. I'm like, okay, that's way too low. But $5 million is enough to change your life. You would never have to work for the rest of your life and you'd be able to live comfortably.
There's absolutely no world. There's no world in which I'm going in there. You can give me the whole 200. I'm not going in there. I will hold out to win the Powerball. It is crazy to me. If they'd made the number $1 billion, I'm starting to think about it.
Here's the thing, though, is they pull it off if the evil white man doesn't betray them, right? Like if the guy doesn't kill the queen and take off her head, they get the money, they get out, no problem. Like there's zero problems in this movie if they do that.
Maybe because they still move up.
There's no zombies attacking them.
They move up when the bomb's going to be there, though.
Sure, but then they still have plenty of time to go out. They click the button on the elevator. They're going up. His daughter like goes off and does that stuff. If you take out the daughter, if you take out the zombie queen's head, they waltz right into this building. They kill a couple just stragglers. They grab the money. They get to the roof. They fly away, and that's the whole movie. And there's nothing. They had to generate conflict with this queen beheading thing, and the daughter being the absolute worst human on the planet.
But they don't even know that going in. When they go in, they don't know anything about these alpha zombies. The coyote has to kind of teach them that there's these alpha zombies that have these rules that they follow.
That's the other thing I wanted to ask you, right? What do you think about, I would say, the insane amount of time we spend learning about zombie culture? Do you think, do you give a fuck that there's an alpha zombie? Do you want to see all these rituals where zombies are just standing there? And do you care that this guy has a baby and he's upset that the queen... Again, I guess maybe it's just trying to add another layer to this that we don't have. All these other movies, Dawn of the Dead, there's just what they're doing is attracting so many more zombies. It's usually a numbers game, right? Because these zombies are slow moving. They're easy to kill. Just the sheer quantity of them overwhelms the last survivors. It's like a typical zombie trope, I guess. But in this guy is so smart, he's able to ride a horse, wear armor that protects his head, and coordinate an attack against them while they're just trying to get out of this and make it through, just to get his unborn child back. So these zombies are having sex and they are creating a viable embryo. This is weird. I don't understand this.
That's the thing where it feels like a missed opportunity because it's something I've never seen before in a zombie property. But it seems like it harkens to like a darker mythology in this world where zombies aren't just this like virus that has overtaken humanity. It's like to be able to have a zombie baby, there's supernatural forces at work. There's some kind of like a mystical, like satanic religious thing happening here. I was like, is the zombie baby supposed to be the Antichrist or something? It felt like there was like a demonic force at work. And it was never brought up again. So, we'll never know. The helmet was cool. I've never seen a zombie wearing a helmet. That's a cool trope.
I feel like I've seen zombies that were cops who were turned, that were wearing riot gear or something like that. That seems like a kind of similar thing. Like they died wearing the helmet, so they have a helmet now. But this guy consciously deciding to wear a helmet is very interesting. And you're right, it presents them as something more than just a disease. It presents them like they are their own creature. The way in like fantasy, you get elements of, oh, these are the elves. These are the dwarfs. This is a species unto its own. These are the zombies. And just a side effect of how do they reproduce? They possess another organism. Sometimes you get an alpha zombie, which I guess is capable of having sex with another alpha zombie and creating an embryo. I don't know how that works, but it's enough for them to be like their own species. I mean, it's weird. It's interesting. But I don't know if it adds anything at all to the story, and I don't know if they explore it enough for it to make sense. I don't know. Let's get into some categories, Kevin.
Yeah.
When did you know that helicopters can't fly straight up? Because every time there's a helicopter in this movie, it has to fly and fall immediately off the edge of the skyscraper. They can't just go up. There's a scene at the end where the guy like runs and dives off the top of this building and he gets to the helicopter. He's only able to get to the helicopter because the helicopter is now for some reason lower than the roof it took off from. It's very weird. The helicopter mechanics in this are very weird. Also, slightly unrelated, but Tig Notaro just leaving and hiding next to the building and then coming back, completely unnecessary, a complete waste of time. Doesn't really seem to fit in with her character, who is really just there to spend time with her friends. It sounds like she says a lot of. Maybe when Chris D'Elia was there, it made more sense. Like, oh, this guy is fucking sketchy and sucks. But Tig Notaro, I'm like, nah, Tig's staying, man. Tig is holding it down for us, especially when she has enough time. You have 9 minutes to leave. You wait 8 minutes and then you get out of there. Like, what are you doing trying to leave early? Like, who cares if you leave early, you know? The helicopter stuff didn't make any sense, but.
I got a when did you know? When did you know that Vanderhoff, I forget the guy's name. When did you know that he was bit, that he was going to turn?
That's really good. I don't know. I don't know if I really thought about it, to be honest. I was kind of excited that he was making it out. You know what I thought, though, for the last 20 minutes of this movie is like, okay, well, that's the end.
Yeah.
Okay, well, this movie's over now. Okay, I thought the scene of the daughter shooting Batista, you could have done a blackout on her pulling the trigger, and that would have been a good ending for me. Her just freaking out and having to kill her dad the same way, like in a full circle moment. Then they showed this guy, him just throwing the money bags out. You could end on that. You could end on him walking through the desert. You could end on all this stuff. You could end with him on the plane, and it ends with him in the bathroom. It was just like so much stuff. It keeps going. It keeps going. It keeps going. I guess it does plant the seed for the next movie of this guy is turning into a zombie. The zombies are still out there. There's still a virus and all of that. And it looks like he was bit by the alpha guy. So he could be an alpha. I mean, it sets up all the sequel stuff, but I don't know if I was thinking about it, to be honest. I was mostly thinking, when is this movie over? Because it's definitely got to be over soon, right?
Yeah, I guess that was originally, it was supposed to be a post-credits scene, and then they just folded it into the main runtime of the movie.
That makes sense. It feels like a post-credit scene for sure. What do you think about it? Were you surprised that he was bit?
Yeah, because it took, I mean, seems like 24 hours for him to turn after he got bit. Like I'm struggling to figure out why it would take so long for him to turn after getting bit, but it did. So, because
Batista turns immediately.
Yeah. Well, Lauren was asking if he turned so quickly. I think this is a really good point. If Batista turned so quickly because he died in the helicopter crash, and then like maybe he succumbed to his injuries from the crash and then immediately turned afterwards, and that's why Van Hoffer didn't turn.
Vanderhoffen, whatever his name is.
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous. The answer is because they want to set up the sequel, but I want an in-world justification for it too.
I was a little bummed they didn't get the money. They also set up another thing with him where they're like, oh, he's got this cool saw that he uses. He doesn't use the saw in the movie.
Holy shit. He totally doesn't. Oh my God.
He doesn't use the saw once during the heist. And he goes out of his way to tell other people not to touch his saw. What happens with the saw? Someone else touches it. They use it to get out of something. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh, this is a practical thing. You need it to cut through bars and stuff. Like, this is a useful gadget to have, but we didn't see him chopping through anybody with it.
Oh, that's awful. Oh shit. That's really terrible. I can't believe they didn't follow up on that. Damn, man.
You got any beefs, Kevin?
I mean, my biggest beef was just that this is not enough money. I wasn't in it for the amount that Dave Bautista was getting paid, let alone everybody after him getting paid less. I wasn't there for any of it. This is preposterous to me. You could never pay me to go anywhere near any kind of a zombie. It's just not happening. Part of my beef was with the opening credits. There's a lot of really cool shit in the opening credits. The stuff where we're seeing the background of how people basically like became zombie killers, like what their life, a little glimpse of their life before, and then them progressing in their life as a zombie killer. And then those shots where it's them standing in front of like a photo backdrop with holding like a framed portrait of someone they've lost. That's amazing. That's amazing. That looks like a Time magazine spread. Like, it's so cool. But what I didn't like was the parts that are so clearly like ripping off Zombieland, like the very, very slow motion shots of people running from zombies and stuff. Cause it's like, I mean, this is just, I don't think you should walk the same ground that closely.
Ooh, good
especially
point.
When Zombieland did it and it was so groundbreaking at the time.
I didn't even think of that. I don't think, the comedic slow-mo zombie attack is very Zombieland. I have to watch that again.
You don't need it at all. You can do that entire opening credit sequence and it's just the military stuff or like just the zombie fighting stuff with the individual people. It's way stronger. Also, I mean, this is a personal gripe, but the typography was shit. It was a cool idea. They had a good idea to do kind of like a Yorgos Lanthimos style, like text spread across the entire screen, but they chickened out. They didn't do it hard enough. They did it in like a safe, weird color and it didn't pay off and it just pass.
I got two beefs. I agree with everything you said. One, the money math. All right. $1 million in hundreds is 22 pounds, Kevin.
Oh, shit.
They're trying to steal $200 million, which would be about 4,400 pounds.
Oh, my God.
Which the crew is like 8 people. They're each carrying 550 pounds. They literally are not capable of carrying the money out of there. There's no plan for a cart. There's no plan. They just brought duffel bags and they're like, cool, we're going to go. Is that a real beef? I don't know. Maybe we suspend our disbelief in a heist. But Fast Five, they're stealing a shit ton of money. They steal the entire safe. There has to be some consideration for the actual amount of money. And other movies, Italian Job does a very cool job of like they need to physically transport the money somehow because it's too much money to carry. That part completely neglected in this. And maybe that's just because it's ultimately not about the money. It's about getting the zombie head. But it stood out to me as like, this is, you open the safe. I'm like, they can't, just looking at this money, looking at the people here, they are not capable of moving $200 million physically.
Dude, oh, that's such a cool point. I'm so glad you did that math. For sure, when they opened up the safe and the money was there, I was like, oh, they can't fit this on the helicopter. I'm not sure that helicopter could fit the original entire crew of people, let alone that crew of people plus some 2 tons of money. No way.
But then we find out, really, I guess you can excuse this by saying the plan is ultimately just to get this guy in there to steal the head. And then he's the only one flying out on the helicopter. So they don't actually need a helicopter that can carry 8 people and 2 tons of money.
So here's a question that I have for you, Tim. Is this a stronger movie if they open up the vault and it's empty?
I was wondering about that. I don't think it makes a difference.
Yeah.
I don't know if it makes a difference. Like that they were betrayed.
Yeah.
Maybe it does, because then they all turn on that guy right away if they realize there's no money in there, and then they're just like, why? What's the ulterior motive? Huh. I don't know. But then also, like, why is that guy even with them?
Why is that guy with them, and why were there other crews trying to get in to the vault?
Well, they just kept sending guys in using the intent of the vault, using the existence of the vault as an excuse for him to send in another guy to get a zombie head, I think. So they kept dying to get zombie heads or something. I don't know. But you're right. The coyote helps him get a zombie head. Right then, he should go up to the roof. He should kill the pilot and he should fly away. But he does want to stick around and see what's in the vault for some reason. Even though at the end, he's like, it doesn't matter about the vault. It's all about the zombie head. But why is he with them at all at the end? He should just bounce. He could kill the coyote and he could bounce.
That definitely doesn't make sense.
So the more you read into this movie, I don't think any of it makes sense. Maybe that's the biggest beef. But the glow stick scene's another one where I'm just like, this makes no sense. They can't just walk through together. Why are they doing this fucking glow stick bullshit? There's good visibility in here. You can just follow the leader. Why can't we just follow the leader in here? There's a lot of stuff in this that's just logic is dismissed for the case of just creating something cool. And I don't know. Kevin, we've had a lot of beefs. You got any thieves for this badass movie?
You know, my thief is Dave Bautista as an actor. I was really impressed. I really, truly was. I don't think I really have anything else that was a thief. There were moments that were enjoyable to watch. Like the glow stick scene had me holding my breath. It's ridiculous, but it had me holding my breath. The scene where, it was a good scene was where the daughter and the person she was trying to rescue were trapped at the end of a hallway, and there were a bunch of alpha zombies running at them, and they couldn't get through the fire escape door. That was fun. That's like a classic video game moment where you realize you're trapped at the end of a hallway. Yeah, I just don't think this movie hit as hard as it could have. I think there's a version of this movie that's incredible. Maybe we do a rewritables on it sometime, but this wasn't it.
I agree. I had a very hard time coming up with thieves for this. I don't know if any one thing or performance or even concept or scene really stands out to me in that way. I think my only thief would be Netflix, in that I want them to keep making movies like this.
Sure.
It's maybe not the best movie, but I really enjoyed it. And it's part of it's a great reason to justify a Netflix subscription. This was a fun movie. It's not great, but I had fun watching it, and they should keep taking shots like this. Ideally, they get a little bit better, but I'm glad they're still making these kinds of movies and making $70 million movies that we just got to see for free. That's super cool. It's super cool that we got to see this and that this even exists. And I like this. We may or may not be talking about Jupiter's Legacy coming up on this podcast. In some of these Netflix projects, I think they overstep what can actually be done in a fight scene, where they start to show their budget a little bit and it doesn't look as cool. And this felt in a very sweet spot of like, oh, this is something that Netflix can spend money on and make look good. is guys taking guns, blowing up bodies. And physical one-on-one combat. They did it well in Daredevil. They've done it well in all these. Anytime they deviate from that kind of fighting, I think they put themselves in a hole, and it just shows their weaknesses. But they're very good at this, like running and gunning and grounded fight scenes and stuff like that. And I hope Netflix makes more of this stuff. I hope we get this sequel. That's maybe that's the best endorsement of this. Tons of beefs, but I want to see a sequel. I want to see another one.
I'll watch it.
Speaking of sequel, Kevin. Reckless speculation. What do you think this next sequel is going to be like? And I was trying to see if there was anything actually on this. Zach Snyder has said that the sequel, the premise they have, is insane. It is insane. He wants to make it, and he's just talking up how we came up with this idea. It's it's batshit crazy, which I find hard to believe, seeing as how uncrazy this movie was. But what do you think would be so crazy that Zach Snyder would be talking it up like this?
Okay, so I don't know. I want to disclaim that I don't know that this is what I want to happen, but I think this is what he's going to do. I think he has said in that same interview that plane was headed to Mexico City. So we know that there's a plane containing zombies that's going to Mexico City. We know that this is a franchise that involves the undead. I think he's going to do a Dia de los Muertos movie with a ton of zombies. And again, I'm saying I don't want this to happen because I think this would probably be very culturally insensitive. But I'm wondering if he's going to try to do a thing where, like, maybe the Dia de los Muertos holiday is being celebrated and these zombies are being celebrated as, like, I don't know, a good thing, like a great, like a message that people are coming back to life after death. And so maybe there's like a society that's built up around support for the zombies and like appreciation of them, or maybe, I don't know what to do with that. He seems very stoked specifically about the fact that he wants to set it in Mexico City.
My thought with this is, it says it's going to Mexico City. I think Zack Snyder is like a simple enough guy that like the next movie is definitely taking place in Mexico City.
Yeah.
In my mind, if a zombie outbreak happens on a plane, it could just crash. So it could crash anywhere between Vegas and Mexico City. So we could end up anywhere. I'm projecting, I think it'd be nice to see it in like Tulum, you know, like a Cancun movie, some spring breakers going on. There's jungles there. The idea of a zombie like jungle movie sounds very fun to me. We have all these like modern setting zombie movies. Having it in the woods could be fun, in the jungle. That could be exciting. How do we do that? Like a real small town dealing with zombie outbreaks could be interesting. I've heard all these things. You know, I've been to Tulum. I love Tulum. I've heard the Isla Mujeres is where you go to really party. Let's get a little zombie island maybe. Or maybe all of Mexico is like overrun with zombies, and then everyone's hiding out on like Cozumel or like one of these little islands off of Mexico. And so there's like a human island, but they have to keep going on runs on the mainland. You know, they take a boat over, they get to the mainland, they have to go there to get resources and stuff. I think there could be a lot of fun with this. There's really no wrong way to go with zombies, as we've seen, where you can't make it an entertaining movie. But yeah, I'd like to think it's going to be a more original spin on this. Maybe another heist, maybe they're just robbing some people on their honeymoon or something like that. I don't know.
I mean, are the zombies going to take over a cartel? Are we going to get like a Narcos, but it's zombies?
Zombie cartel is very funny. The idea of zombies getting into drugs, just like growing cocaine.
Oh my God.
Dude, zombie cartel is very funny. Zombie cartel is very funny. All right, I guess that's our pod, Kevin. How do you feel about it? Good? You recommend this movie when you want to see the sequel, right?
I mean, yeah, you know, if it's late night and you're looking for something to watch, and it's look, you know what you're getting. If you want to see Dave Bautista in a desert mowing down some zombies, you're going to get that in this movie. It's
a fun B movie. You know, if you're right. If you're looking for something to watch, throw it on. It's fun. You know, you'll know immediately if you like it or not.
Yeah, I think that's a good point.
Thank you guys very much for listening to Nerdy for 30. Check out some of our other Mess Around Media podcasts. Come At Me Show. I've heard the host for that is very charming, charismatic. People love him. Women want to be with him. Men want to be him. Children look up to him. Old people look back at him and smile at the wonders of youth and what could have been for them and never will be because they're old. Kevin, do you have anything you want to plug?
I got none to plug, Tim.
Hell yeah, dude. Thank you guys for listening. Bye.
Bye.